Why am I celebrating? Maybe because I just checked and this channel's now just ticked over 500,000 views. That doesn't make any sense. It's mind-boggling. I mean, I'm still getting my head around the fact that there's 6,000 of you who have subscribed to this. So, imposter syndrome may be kicking in a little hard right now. But hey, we're here to celebrate, right? I'd wear a silly hat if I had one. Look, I want to do something a little bit special, and I know that in the past I've had really good reactions to my reactions to Polyphia, and to be honest with you, I've been sort of dying to get back into them. So I picked out the one song that has been consistently sort of commented over and over and over again, and that is Yas, featuring Mario Camarena and Eric Hansel. And I have no idea what to expect other than a lot of Tim Henson sort of strangely not clean sound guitar, some brilliant drumming, some amazing bass playing, and a few guests, which, I mean, if you're going to guest on a Polyphia song, you're going to have to bring your A game. So, I mean, I'm here for this 100%. Let's get into it. Cool clip. First of all, who dresses these guys? Those jackets are amazing. Look, one thing that I always find really interesting about Tim in general is his tone, because it sounds so abnormal and unfamiliar. Like it has like a gritty sort of edginess of a bit of a gainy clean sound. That's that sort of like, it's almost like a gurgly kind of sort of edginess, right? But then it can ring out with this crazy bell-like sound when he needs it to, and I just can't get my head around it. But I think part of it is something that he said in an interview. I believe he was talking to, who was it? Rick Beato, I think, in one of their conversations. And he was saying, someone asked him, what amp do you play? And he's like, I've never really played one. I had some sort of a practice amp as a kid, but I've never really used them, and so I think part of what makes these guys sound so original, other than it's very modern playing, right? Let's not take that away from anyone. The techniques that they use and the melodic sort of components they're sort of welding together are very ultra modern and new and interesting in their own right. But it doesn't sound like any other guitar I've heard before, and that's because I guess Tim grew up in a time where you could literally craft your own sound. You weren't restricted by having, selecting an amp and then being comfortable with the sound of that amp, whether it be like, Peavey or Orange or Engel or whoever else you decide to go with, Mesa Boogie. They all sound different. And then you run it through a different cab and then that sounds different. But then you're kind of restricted to, okay, here's the stock standard list of effects you can use. You got delays, reverbs, flanges, phases, and there's only so many times all of those things can be put together to come up with something that doesn't sound like some other guitar player, whereas in this world of, modeling now, where you can have Kempers and things like that, you can pretty much craft anything. You're still restricted by the basics, but you can do things that are impossible to do with a normal amplifier and things like that. And he's settled into a tone that's kind of got that single coil bell-like quality, but somehow has enough edge to it that it sounds kind of glitchy, almost like a digital glitchiness. And that just sort of plays into his style of playing so well that it's immediately apparent who's playing. You couldn't accidentally sort of think that it was someone else, But anyway, let's go back. I mean, dude, there's so much to talk about. The drums, the bass, everything is so amazing. Let's go back a little bit. I love that throughout that whole part there, the drummer gave the ultimate amount of space, you know, just to let those sort of chimey, sort of double stoppy kind of things just ring through. Okay, I didn't want to stop during that awesome drum fill thing. But I think I've cottoned on to what it is that captures the imagination of people with this band. And that is, sure, they've got tricks, right? They've got mad skills. They can do those crazy runs and those amazing arpeggiated sort of phrases and those sort of lyrical melodic lines made up of chord shapes and things like that. There's no denying that they're skillful. But what it is that melody is always at the center point of what they're doing. It's easy to shred. It's easy to play fast. It's easy to do, interesting, dive, whammy dives and trickery. But unless at the core of what you're doing is a melody or a cool harmony, there's nothing really for the average person to latch onto. It's just a bunch of ephemeral noodling, you know? But I think part of the strength of this band is because they don't have a vocalist, their job in coming up with their part for, say, a verse section of a song or whatever, before they go back to the motif, I guess you'd call it a verse, is that there isn't somebody providing a melody for the listener to latch onto. So you have to do that as part of your rhythm playing or your little focused lead, solo section or something like that. And so that's kind of what it is. This modern style of playing really is capturing the rhythm, the harmony, and the melody all in one go. That's why there's so many phrases played with chord shapes and things like that, because you have to underpin your melody with something underneath it, and I think that's the secret. Like if you listen to this part through here, I think I rewound it up. You can hear somebody coming up with lyrics over that, There's something about that chord progression there that reminds me of something. I'm thinking back to like early 2000s. I don't know, is it a Janet Jackson song off Velvet Rope or something like that? And then when those vocal samples came in, it kind of sounded like they were lifted directly from that album too. There was a great album by Janet Jackson called Velvet Rope in the, I guess, early 2000s or something like that. Which had some cool tracks in it, but is that what I'm thinking of? I'm not sure. I'm confused. But this little... that little sort of harmonic transition there? Yeah, all these chords, it just sounds lifted directly from it. But yeah, I guess at the core of it, it's kind of like that sort of funk, new jack R&B sort of swing thing. Yeah, wow. Okay, I'm trying to. I feel like I can almost hear a vocal line, like a lyric or something, but I can't get my head around what it is. There's too much going on. But either way, like these guys kind of have this weird show band quality. Like, you know, it reminds me like the chord choices they use, like a lot of sevenths and ninths and things like that. It reminds me so much of bands like Tower of Power and things like that, where you have all of these amazing musicians who are competent in jazz style and things like that, that can sort of elevate the harmony of a simple chord progression by just tweaking the chords a little bit, you know, right? Like, so instead of just playing like a C minor, you can play like a C minor seventh, or, you know, you can embellish chords like a, or like, you know, you add chords, you know, things like that. And for guitar players, it's a little bit harder to get into because most people start out playing the basic sort of just fifth chords, which a fifth chord, which is 90% of what guitar players play, is literally just, say I'm playing C5 or the fifth. The only tonal harmony in it is usually the C and the G, which is just a fifth apart, which is why it's called a fifth chord, and then an octave below. So you get like a... So most, if you look at a lot of rhythm guitar in most rock bands, it's basically just, which has no tonal characteristic at all. Like if you add the third in, suddenly you've got a major chord or a minor chord. You know, there's these tonal characteristics of the chord that you miss out on without that, you know, third in there. So you just got like a, but if you add like the third in there, suddenly you've got some interesting sort of stuff, and then add like a seventh or like a flat seventh, you know, or something, you get mystery and you get interesting sort of, you know, harmonic sort of elements that uplift everything, you know. Like this is what I was talking about on guitar. Most metal is just going to be, like I said, fifth chords, like there's nothing to that. But the problem with it is if you have distorted sounds like this, it sounds better to play a fifth chord than to try and sort of, you know, play like a, I don't know, like a... The dissonance of the sound takes those chord colors and makes them sound a little bit hacky, you know? So that's why you'll see most rhythm in guitar, like songs, like, you know, traditional blues rock sort of stuff is always going to be like fifth chords. And then typically you'll let the bass player come up with all the harmonic stuff underneath by playing other degrees of the scale underneath your dominance and, you know, whatever. But these guys don't have that luxury, so they have to create all of the harmony, you know, and melody and all that sort of stuff in their lead parts, which is what makes them super interesting. Great bass player. Wow, okay. Okay, we've talked in the past about sweep picking. Have a look at his right hand through this passage, and you'll notice that he's not picking each string or each note. He's just dragging the pick up and down in a really fluid action in sync with what his left hand's doing. I don't think I've seen many examples of it where you really get to see exactly what that looks like. But have a look at his picking hand. See? You you see how it's almost like a paintbrush. He's just painting down the strings. And that's where the challenge with sweeping comes from, because you have to be so in sync between your two hands that every time the pick falls onto that next string, you're already fretting the note for it, It's super interesting, but it's not often you get to see it up close like that. Excellent work. Very cool. How is there so much going on, but it's not too much? I don't know. There's just so much like rhythmically, harmonically, melodically going on. Or maybe it's the lack of a vocal. I don't know, but there seems to be room for more. They're sort of putting everything in there, but so deftly that there's still space. It's wild. And also, if this song isn't just a straight up commercial for Ibanez, if you are wondering whether or not you should buy one, I mean, I've got two, so I already know the truth. But man, this dude, just let me hear that bit again. There's so much chaos going on, but it's beautiful, structured chaos. Far out. Wow. All right. We'll be right back. Hey guys, this video is made possible by Enchroma. 1 in 6 guys and 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and if that happens to be you, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma's website where you can get a free eye test. And while you're there, maybe pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got really nothing to lose. And while you're there, use the code CHAOS in checkout to get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. Man, these guys, wow. Okay, so I mean, I don't know what else there is to say other than what I've said before in other reactions, but I mean, maybe this is your first time watching. There's so much beauty in having control over your ego. And don't get me wrong, there's orders of magnitude more flashy playing in this than you'll find in most music, but it's not at the detriment, or they're not sacrificing anything from the song to put that in. In fact, it's the focus of the song. Like I said, the balance comes from making sure that everything is tastefully engineered into place so that, you have a strong melodic component. You could easily write lyrics over the top of this and match the melody of all of the guitar parts throughout, There's some little solo-y bits and stuff like that, but that would be the same with a vocalist, It's kind of, you feel like it's one of those songs where if it was on in the background and you heard it and somebody, you were sort of half listening. If someone said, what was the singer in that band like? You'd be like, oh, pretty good, but there wasn't one, and that's kind of why these guys sort of are a cut above a lot of instrumental bands, because there's melody is first and foremost. And I mean, that goes back to players like I guess Satriani, to a degree Vai, I guess, but to me Satriani seems more like a guy who's more interested in like a strong melody. Both of them are, but like if it was me, I'd say Satriani sort of edges out Vai a little bit in that regard, because he seemed far more willing to trade simplicity for a strong melody, and that's the case here. Except these guys, I mean, man, the band surrounded by a bunch of people who just get it. They feel the same way you feel, and that's what's going on here. Everyone's locked in. Nobody's trying to push the band in a different direction. Everybody's pushing to achieve that same goal, which is beautiful clarity, spacious but still luxurious compositions. Excellent sort of dynamics throughout. You know, the song moves through phases. It takes you on a journey. I mean, it would be so easy to sit down and just come up with a drum riff and then just come up with a whole bunch of cool guitar parts that sort of link together in some degree, but that's not what's going on here. This is a living, breathing organism of a composition that has a beginning, it has an end, and in the middle it's just like this, you know, like Alice through the down the rabbit hole kind of journey, but with that power and uplifting sort of zeal of like, you know, cool sort of funk R&B as well. You know, like there's so many elements going on here that just really, really work together, you know? Man, this is going to take some processing, I think. You can hear I'm a little bit overwhelmed with this one as well. There's two things that overwhelm me. It's when so much is happening harmonically and melodically that I'm just so distracted that I can't, you know, normally I'm sort of putting down mental markers throughout the song of things to talk about, but this is just, it's too much. It's overwhelming. And the other thing that does that is when I'm not expecting it and I react to a band that's extremely aggressive. You know, like heavy music is no big deal, but when it's just something that's just like a truck hitting you right from the beginning and doesn't stop, sometimes I can get a little bit disoriented in that regard too. But that's the nature of reactions, right? You're seeing my first reaction, and sometimes things are really overwhelming. Sometimes things are really easy to sort of pinpoint and categorize, you know. This is kind of like, again, it's like beautiful controlled chaos, you know. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Man, thanks for sticking around, guys. Again, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all, feel free to buy me a coffee. I'll put a link in the description. Like, share, follow, subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these guys, and probably the two guys who guested on this as well, because now I'm really curious, you know, because it seems like when you come across a titan like Tim Henson, and look, you know, I hate referring to him so much. I mean, it's mostly just because I'm more familiar with him and his sort of stuff outside of the band, social media wise. But like, does anybody talk about the other guy? he's just as good, you know? And then these other two gentlemen who guested, they're obviously in the same ballpark as well. Like I don't know if I want to go down a rabbit hole of guys who are just excessively better than me in every aspect. I mean, I guess you can look at it like it's inspiring. I find jealousy is like the killer of creativity. You know, if you find someone who's better than you at something, if I've learned anything in this lifetime and I can impart some wisdom on you, it's that if you're locally known as a guy who's good at something, if everyone in your friend group goes, oh yeah, he's a great artist or he's a great guitar player or whatever, and then you come across somebody else who by your is marginally or even far superior to you, there's two ways you can react. You can get jealous and upset, and you can get moody about it and start doubting yourself and just getting frustrated when other people call out the difference between your work or whatever. Or you can look at it and understand that that person was once in the exact same position you were in their journey, right? What did they do to make the difference? In your estimation, what makes their stuff better, and what can you learn from them to achieve that same level? And that's a powerful tool to have in your tool belt. You know, it takes a little bit of self-reflection, but you know what, after a while it becomes second nature and it just becomes the person you are rather than the person you want to be. So look into that. If you find you constantly, you know, feeling overwhelmed by how much better people around you are at things, just know that they didn't start being amazing. They started out as clumsy as you feel, you know. So there it is. That's the knowledge bomb I'm dropping on you guys today. So anyway, thanks again, guys. This has been fantastic, and I'll catch you on the next one.